Debris removal. After disaster reimbursement funding sources and requirements for eligibility. Welcome to the fourth video in the emergency management series, Debris removal. After the initial emergency response, including setting up road closures and detours, debris removal is one of the first tasks to complete towards getting a road back open to traffic. To be reimbursed for these costs, there are several requirements you need to be aware of. First, let's review in detail what this video is about. Introduction. In this video, we define some terms and share examples to show how reimbursing organizations define debris. Then we convey damage costs and conditions for debris removal to be considered reimbursable at the federal and state level. Then we walk through the thinking process for determining if debris removal costs are reimbursable and stress the need for good record keeping. Then we review the difference between emergency debris removal work and permanent. We then talk about how sites might be combined according to the federal reimbursing agencies. Last, we cover the debris removal requirements for both federal organizations. First, let's review how to find out if your damaged road is a federal aid highway. What is a federal aid highway? This video discusses debris removal from federal aid highways. Those are public roads classified as arterial, urban collectors, and major rural collectors. You can find road classifications on the MnDOT interactive base map at mndot.gis.state.mn.us/basemap. Next, let's check out what is meant by debris in this context. What is debris? The background photo shows a highway with displaced chunks rearing up from the water and other road materials skewed out of place during a flood. This, according to both FEMA and FHWA, is considered wreckage. In general, these reimbursement funding organizations define debris as material deposited during an emergency event that prevents the road from functioning. This material could be blocking the road, presenting a safety hazard, preventing drainage along the roadside, or clogging culverts and bridges under the road. Examples include trees, woody debris like brush, fallen branches, etc., sand, mud, silt, gravel, building components and contents, wreckage, including that produced while doing emergency work, vehicles on public property, personal property. According to an informal poll of transportation professionals, approximately 90% of debris cleared after a disaster is vegetation, and the other 10% is road materials. Next, let's get into what FEMA and FHWA require before our disaster debris removal can be reimbursed. When is debris removal eligible for reimbursement? Under the Stafford Act, passed in 2012, debris removal is eligible for reimbursement on federal aid highways by FEMA when the President declares a disaster, and FEMA determines that debris removal is eligible under the key sections of the Stafford Act. FHWA reimburses for debris removal when the governor's declaration of a state emergency covers counties that are not included in the president's declaration, or if FEMA determines it's ineligible under the Stafford Act. FHWA does not reimburse for debris removal if it is eligible for FEMA reimbursement. That's who reimburses under specific conditions. Now let's walk through the process of determining eligibility. Debris removal reimbursement determination process. This decision diagram shows the thinking behind determining if debris removal costs will be reimbursed. 1. First is the county included in the Presidential Declaration of a National Disaster Area? If it is, debris removal is eligible for FEMA public assistance funding. A. If it's a MnDOT roadway, the district contacts MnDOT Emergency Management to coordinate with FEMA. B. If it's a state aid roadway, the county or city must contact their county emergency manager to coordinate with FEMA. 2. If it isn't included in the President's declaration and the FHWA Emergency Relief Program is activated, then debris removal is eligible for FHWA emergency relief funding. MnDOT districts coordinate with FHWA. City-county contact DSAE to coordinate with FHWA. 3. If neither FEMA or FHWA emergency relief is available, the county may qualify for the State Public Assistance Program. Therefore, debris removal costs are eligible for reimbursement through the state program. A. If the debris is on a MnDOT roadway, the district contacts MnDOT's Emergency Management to coordinate with HSEM. B. If it's on a state aid roadway, the county or city must contact their county emergency manager to coordinate with HSEM. 4. No funding is available. So, there are 4 possible outcomes. 1. The county is covered by a presidential declaration. Debris removal reimbursement follows the FEMA public assistance process. Minnesota Homeland Security and Emergency Management, HSEM, a division of Minnesota Department of Public Safety, administers the FEMA program. 2. The county is not covered by a presidential declaration, but is covered by the governor's declaration. The event exceeds $700,000 of FHWA eligible damages. Debris reimbursement follows the FHWA process. 3. The site is not eligible for the FEMA or FHWA process. Minnesota Statute, Chapter 12B, established a state public assistance program to provide cost-share assistance to local governments. In this instance, such local public agencies sustain significant damage on a per capita basis but are not eligible for federal disaster assistance or corresponding state assistance under Chapter 12A. Minnesota Homeland Security and Emergency Management, a division of Minnesota Department of Public Safety, administers the State Public Assistance Program. 4. No state or federal assistance is available. Keep good records. Why? The presidential declaration or governor's declaration might not be in hand at the time the earliest emergency debris removal is occurring. Therefore, it is important to keep track of debris removal locations and quantities. This is because once MnDOT knows which counties are covered by which declaration, they can easily tell which part of the overall repair work needs to be reimbursed by FEMA rather than by FHWA or the State Disaster Fund administered by HSEM. Next, let's talk about the differences in debris removal. When is it considered emergency work and when is it permanent? Debris removal, emergency or permanent? Depending on the location and severity of the debris removal may be considered part of emergency restoration or permanent repairs. Debris removal, when eligible for emergency relief funds, is considered emergency restoration. Why? Emergency work is that which must be performed to reduce or eliminate an immediate threat to life, protect public health and safety, and to protect improved property that is threatened in a significant way as a result of a disaster. It is needed to minimize damage, protect facilities, or reestablish essential traffic. Permanent repair includes those repairs undertaken normally after emergency work has been completed to restore the highway to its pre-disaster condition, normal traffic. It's also anything beyond the emergency restoration that remains in place when the project is complete. Debris removal is a preliminary step in making permanent repairs. Debris removal as part of a permanent repair may be done concurrently with emergency restoration or at a later date. Refer to the Emergency Relief Program Guidance and Programmatic Agreement for authorization, contracting, and approval requirements for emergency restoration and permanent repairs. These topics are also covered in more detail in a later video. Now, let's review the entirety of a roadway and find out where FHWA stops its debris removal versus where FEMA does. FHWA reimbursement debris removal limits. For FHWA, debris removal, when eligible for emergency relief funds as mentioned earlier, is considered emergency work when it's needed to minimize damage, protect facilities, or restore essential traffic. The outside edges of a road's shoulders are the limits for debris removal to be considered as emergency work. However, debris that is a safety hazard, a fixed object, within the clear zone may also be considered emergency work. A fixed object is permanently installed on the side of the road like a sign or a telephone pole. Additionally, debris removal necessary to maintain critical drainage may also be considered emergency work. Critical drainage is drainage required to maintain essential traffic on the roadway. FHWA's eligible permanent repair limits for debris removal include the traveled way, cut and fill slopes, and clearing needed for full functioning of the pavement, drainage ditches, structures, and the safety clear zone. Cut sections should be cleared to a safe distance to prevent debris from causing further slope erosion, filling ditches, or endangering traffic. Those are the FHWA limits. On to the FEMA limits. FEMA reimbursement debris removal limits. For FEMA, debris removal is classified as FEMA Category A work. Debris cleared from roads and highways may be eligible. These include the travel lanes and shoulders, roadside ditches and drainage structures, and the maintained right-of-way. Debris removal from private property is not eligible, just like stump removal. FEMA does not differentiate between emergency debris and permanent debris removal. All debris is classified as FEMA Category A work. When damage and debris caused by the same disaster covers several nearby sites, federal reimbursing organizations may agree to combine them. Combining sites. Generally, a site is an individual location where damage has occurred. However, a site could include several adjoining locations where similar damage related to the same cause has occurred. FHWA. For FHWA, a minimum of $5,000 in repair costs per site is used as a guideline for a site to be eligible for emergency relief or ER funding. FEMA. For FEMA, the minimum amount for a project worksheet is $3,200 for fiscal year 2019. FEMA may combine individual sites to reach the $3,200 amount. Next, let's discuss how and where to record costs to be considered eligible for reimbursement. Tracking debris costs. To facilitate separation of debris removal from other repairs, start tracking debris removal from the very beginning. Be sure to track all debris removal all the time. Debris removal should be financially tracked separately from other repairs. This is because it may be reimbursed by a fund different from other repairs. For MnDOT maintenance forces, source code 2218, emergency debris and sediment removal, and source code 2219, permanent debris and sediment removal, should be used to track debris removal operations. Federal reimbursement, FHWA. To preserve FHWA ER site eligibility, debris removal should be included on the site DDIR. It's important to separate emergency and permanent debris removal on the DDIR. As with any FHWA emergency work, prior approval or authorization is not required to perform emergency debris removal. If permanent PRCER debris removal is done at the same time as emergency DR, no authorization is required. However, permanent debris removal must be authorized by FHWA prior to commencing work. If debris removal is not eligible for FEMA reimbursement but is on a major collector or hire, it can be included in the reimbursement documentation submitted for emergency restoration or permanent repairs concurrent with emergency restoration. Debris removal costs should be included on the DDIR even if FEMA is paying for it. The debris costs are still included in the site damage costs and can help meet the site minimum for FHWA. Refer to the Emergency Relief Programmatic Agreement and contracting guidance for authorization, contracting, and approval requirements for emergency and permanent repairs. Federal reimbursement, FEMA. Debris removal is classified as FEMA Category A. Category A work does not require pre-approval from FEMA. Debris removal must be completed within 6 months. If requested, the state may grant up to an additional 6 months for the completion of debris removal operations. Performing FEMA debris removal. FEMA debris removal can be performed by the applicant's force account personnel and equipment or by the contractor. The applicant needs to track the site of debris removal, where the debris is taken, and what is done with the debris. Also, be aware that some areas of the state have restrictions on where debris can be disposed of. This is due to environmental hazards such as Dutch elm disease. This completes our discussion on getting possible reimbursement for debris removal after a disaster. Summary. In this video, we defined some terms and shared examples to show how reimbursing organizations define debris. Then we conveyed damage costs and conditions for debris removal to be considered reimbursable at the federal and state level. Then we walked through the thinking process for determining if debris removal costs are reimbursable and stressed the need for good record keeping. Then we reviewed the difference between emergency debris removal work and permanent. We then talked about how sites might be combined according to the federal reimbursing agencies. Last, we covered the debris removal requirements for both federal organizations. This video is now complete. Thank you for watching.